For a man's overall well-being and productivity, there are basic needs that must be met. Food, shelter, clothing are basic. And every individual strives to secure effectively a day-to-day, part of their day-to-day activities. You must find a way to meet these needs. Now, streamlining it down to food, it's been, in recent time, giving most Nigerians a grave concern owing to the high prices of major staple foods in the country. And the recent food security report released by the World Bank has painted a grim picture of the impending crisis of food security in several states across Nigeria's northwestern and northeastern region. The report has highlighted the deteriorating standards of living in these areas, attributing the crisis to the ongoing insecurity and armed conflict. According to the report, Borno, Adamawa, Kaduna, Katsina, Yobe, Sokoto, and Zamfara states are most at risk of facing severe food insecurity in 2024. This alarming projection demands immediate attention and decisive action from Nigeria's government and the governors of the affected states. This forms the focus of our conversation this morning on Daybreak, this show, as we look at insecurity, or food security rather, in Nigeria. And we are going to be talking with two guests. One of them, Zanau Hassan Maikasuwa, is the MD of Farm Fields Agro-Allied Services. Maikasuwa is an agroeconomist. We also have joining us online, Dr Ambrose Igboke. Dr Ambrose Igboke is the President of Public Affairs Analyst in Enugu State. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you. I'm sure you have monitored developments in the country in the last couple of weeks. We are beginning to see protests in states like Niger. We saw some in Ilorin, in Kano, and the likes, over the worsening food crisis, occasioned by these food insecurities, and even made worse, by the insecurities in some of the states, which have stopped farmers from accessing their farmlands and producing, however inadequate. What's your initial thoughts, around some of this crisis and the implication for Nigeria's well-being and security in general?
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful question. Basically, what I think we are facing at the moment is a complicity of a lot of factors, one of which is a kind of multifaceted inflation that is caused by different factors. And before now, last season, that's in 2023, we will have noticed that farmers were not able to access farm inputs at the right price, at the lower price. Government intervention did not come to farmers, and then the cost of production was extremely high. Coupled with the fact that there was removal of fuel subsidy, there was a devaluation of the naira that continued to be devaluated even up to this moment. Now that affected a lot of commodity pricing in the country, which has risen, which has made even agricultural commodities to continue to go high. At the moment, we are experiencing hike in food prices of maize, prices of rice, prices of main staple food, even dry cassava chips that used to go for 4,000, 10,000, now is going for about 25,000 to even 30,000 a bag. So you will have noticed that the challenge we are facing cannot be said that we are out of food supply in the country, or what we refer to as food scarcity. But we have a situation where the majority of Nigerians who are poor are not able to afford the food that is available. And that has caused a lot of problems. And so when you have a majority of your population not being able to afford food, then that is an insecurity in itself. And that is what currently we are facing in the country, even across the different locations. It is not that the food is not there in the market. The foods are there in the market, but who can afford is actually the the challenge that Nigerians are facing across the country, and that will lead to hunger.
Right.
So when there is food and you can't buy, then it's also another insecurity that we are facing. Food security has to do with affordability, availability of good food nutrition that the populace can get. I think that's my take this morning.
Okay, and in looking at where you are right now, you're in Jalingo, and we did just give a report on how there's been a slowdown in the hike and a gradual decline of some of the prices of grains, especially maize and rice. One of the reasons has been that bulk purchasers, like the big companies, have stopped buying for the past couple of days just to address this particular situation. And that in itself is one of the reasons why the prices are coming down. But also the state government has inaugurated a committee to look into the pricing situation to address the concerns of average Nigerians in Taraba. Give me your reading of the situation in Taraba and what that is signposting as far as addressing the concerns of Nigerians is concerned.
Yeah, so in Taraba, as you have rightly explained, we are experiencing a slowdown in pricing. Prices of the various most buying commodities are actually going down, and that can be attributed to the fact that most of the companies, the millers who have been buying, who have been stockpiling to ensure that they have a steady production throughout the year, have been asked to hold on from continuous buying. And usually, once they cease buying, the demand in the market falls down because they are the main buyers of all of these commodities. So once they cease buying, it crashes the price. But you will also know that this is just a temporary measure, because the fall in price is not as a result of increased volume of the commodity in the market. It's as a result of the fall, as a result of a reduced demand pressure on the market. And so once this demand resumes again, you will begin to see that the prices will continue to go. Another thing to also look at is that we were just 4 months away from harvest. We have another 8 months to the new harvest. So we have a long way to go. So I don't know for how long this measure will go. When you stop the processors, the millers from buying, you are also in a way trying to now increase the cost of their output. For example, the cost of feed for poultry producers, broiler producers, egg producers will also shoot up. You continue, the cost of egg will go up in the market, the cost of chicken meat will go up in the market, semo will go up in the market, and other products that come from the millers in the market will also go up. Right. So government must be able to look at it in different angles to be able to see that one measure that is not leading to increased food supply in the market will not solve the problem. As for regarding Taraba, yesterday the executive governor of Taraba State, Dr Igboke, first inaugurated the Agricultural and Food Sustainability Committee, whose mandate is to ensure food availability and food affordability, and to create innovative means whereby they will encourage a lot of Tarabans to be able to massively grow food.
All right.
Yes, we've lost our connection.
That's right. Yeah. But we also have in the line as well Dr Ambrose Igboke, who is the president of Public Affairs, the Guild of Public Affairs in Enugu State. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Good to have you this morning. I'm sure you have listened to some of the thoughts of Mr. Zanau, but give us a sense of the kind of crisis that we seem to be in. He talked about the fact that some of the measures we have seen don't exactly, or rather is not get towards increasing food supply in the market, and they are just basically temporary stopgap, to bring down these prices. But ultimately, we are still going to contend with a whole lot, given that we have about 8 months to another harvest season. Do you think, from some of the things we hear from those, the corridors of power, that they understand the enormity of this crisis from their body language and some of the things that they have said?
Thank you for having me on the show. I must admit that the federal government's policy, as presently constituted, has no focal direction. We don't even have an economic thinking. We don't have an economic strategy. We don't even know what the economic strategy of the government as it stands. For the president and his inauguration speech to just pronounce a cliche saying subsidy is gone was the starting point of the somersaults of this government. Without taking office, without assembling your economic team, without a thorough prognosis of economic situation of the country, and without proper prescription for the disease that we're suffering, out of office, and on that they said subsidies gone. That triggered unprecedented economic and the somersaults we are seeing today in terms of high inflation that are triggered on everything else. That announcement followed with all kinds of irrational economic policies. For example, you remove subsidy, you started floating naira, the production base of the country is not strengthened. There were no alternatives to refining of products. We're still exporting food, refining them outside this country and importing them via dollar. And so what we now today, we have some kind of somersault. The latest is the diaspora remittances, which were supposed to even shut off our dollar base. We started catering with that and almost making that a place where we are no more earning. Because what people do, Nigerians in diaspora, billions of dollars. In fact, the remittances almost close to in exports of crude oil and especially crude oil. Now the government has also gone to counter with that by telling people that you cannot exchange. So what the people in diaspora will start doing, if their relatives cannot get equivalent the dollar equivalent in Nigeria, what they will start doing is they will convert it there in wherever they are and send it naira. Loses. Nigeria loses. So we are also blocking that. And we have not tackled insecurity that made our farmers not go to farm, abandon their farm. We have not done anything like that. We have not even done anything to safeguard our farmers. Then we have not, because we have opened up something like service structure. We always call the textbook economics. When the Nigerians want to report in Brentwood textbook economics, we talk about the World IMF prescriptions, World Bank, WTO, all kinds of backgrounds. But we fail to study the advanced countries themselves and what they're talking about price market and the rest without price inhibitions, let demand and supply determine pricing. But in their own countries, they heavily subsidize services and products. America is one of the highest countries that subsidize farmers. Subsidizing to the point so that their own companies can have competitive advantage in international market. And that's what they do. They subsidize abroad.
Right. Doctor, if I can just interject there. We obviously can tell that the Tinubu administration has made several pronouncements over the past 8 months in its own attempt to troubleshoot the economy, to address some of the gaps as it claims it's trying to do. However, the ineffectiveness is rather obvious for most Nigerians to tell. But how much of that, in your thinking, is a product of failed policies or a failed attempt at addressing the problems, and how much of it is because of the current global economic slowdown that we're witnessing? Recently, the Africa Development Bank highlighted Nigeria, Angola, Ethiopia, and Kenya as those countries that have to deal with a likely social unrest. And I must say that in Nigeria, we're already getting a sense of that with the protests across the north and south. Give me a sense of how we can contextualize this problem. How much of it do you hold the Tinubu administration, and how much of it is just a function of a slow down in the global economy?
Our problem is tied to a global economy because we're not really able to, master our own local economy. Many things that are happening again have nothing to do with the global economy. We are not even able to, for example, the security I talked about, that nothing negatively on our own local economy. It's not a global thing. It's something we should tackle, in our own space. Secondly, as I said earlier, there are no economic strategies to even start confronting some of those things. Therefore, all we see are pronouncements and knee-jerk approaches. And when you have a problem, because of macro monumental issues like these macro problems, macroeconomic problems that you don't just make pronouncements. So you see different ministers, different appointees making pronouncements. That is not how to tackle problems of this proportion. So the Tinubu administration has not been able to, I think they're not able to understand the nitty-gritty of this kind of economic policy and how to run it. So the city governor comes out to make a pronouncement tomorrow. The economic minister comes, the advisor comes, they just make all kinds of pronouncements. That is not how to run the economy. We need to articulate our problems, not be able to properly articulate the problem. So what they're doing is, they're struggling like a drowning man in the pool of water, trying to lay hand on any straw, to save itself. So that's not, we won't proceed like that from here. We have all the experts, we have all the, for example, while in Nigeria, fighting the risk of dollars and other things, importing, foreign brand of cars, for example, to service political interest, to service the presidency, to service to service MPAs. While we have local manufacturers of vehicles there, that to me is an economic index. You shouldn't, so everything we need to solve locally, we should. But again, it's a local industry. So the problem now is obviously this finance grains, the price of these are not how to solve economic problems. So whatever effort I put in is not yielding on the roots.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. We understand there's a bit of hitch there. The quality of your audio, people will sort it out, and I'm sure we'll be able to extract as much value from your conversation this morning. But switching over to Mr. Maikasuwa, you listened to some of the perspective that he offered there about how it does appear that we are more on pronouncement than we are actually tackling some of the real issues on ground, the issues of insecurity, the issues of providing a safe place for our farmers to work. You also raised concerns about how some of these interventions, on the one hand, seem to be arresting in the problem, but on the long run would also shoot up some of the crises, especially with prices, if these companies are unable to stock up and process. What do you think we can do to arrest this situation effectively? Do you think we have sufficient food stocks, to permanently push down these prices, or we probably would have to look at bringing in grains, to support what we currently have while we try to stabilize the situation in country?
Okay, yes. So we should be able to adopt a multiple solution to addressing these issues. One of which is that from last season, from the end of last year or from the middle of last year, we should have been able to have projected what we are going to experience now. Now, the federal government initiated a plan for dry season for the production of wheat, right? And that was what the Minister of Agriculture pushed seriously, especially in the Northwest and in the areas where we have cold harmattan. Now, production of wheat has been ongoing and harvest currently is ongoing. Now, what we've not been able to do is how to bring all our governors within the northern states where they have high potential for dry season. Now, for dry season cultivation. Now, that has not been done, even though there are plans on ground, but from the feelers we are having, you will not see the urgency in it. You will have seen massive land, preparation, massive support, inputs moving, trucks of fertilizers, trucks of seed, inputs, prices of inputs even going down because there is massive support to farmers. That currently is not what we are seeing. So we may see some level of supply increase from those who are into dry season at the moment, maybe within the month of March, which will basically help in rice production. Now, but for other grain commodities like maize, I'm sorry, we may have to battle with high cost of maize up to September when new maize will come into the market. So we've not been able to address that. And then the other solution, I think, is that government should meet with all the millers, especially millers that use maize as major raw material.
I guess we have lost the connection to Maikasuwa there, who is okay. I think we have him back now. So if you could just just continue with your line of thought. If you might have to take that again because we lost our connection for a moment. Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that government will have to meet with all the millers whose major raw material is maize, and discuss with them on how much quantity they will require to import, and government should support them to import the quantity they will require for milling throughout to meet our demand for the year before the next harvest comes. By doing this, it will lower the pressure of demand in our local market for maize and invariably will bring down the cost of maize. It may not be an import for everybody, import for just the major millers who depend on maize. That will help. I don't think we can zero out and say completely we can't import. If we are not going to import, I can guarantee you that we will buy maize at the rate of 100 to 120,000 per bag by August, by July, by June. So the earlier government begins to take that initiative now, the better. And then we must plan ahead. By the coming rainy season, we must double or even triple our production. Government should look back. What have we done correctly before? We've had the GES growth enhancement scheme where farmers were...
My goodness. We appear to be unlucky with the signal quality this morning.
50%
but of course, we're going to work on
discount.
Them. We appear to have him back now. Mr. Zanau, apologies for the connection, but go ahead, please.
Yeah, so we've had some successes in the past where farmers were offered 50% discount in input supply through the GES program under the Goodluck Jonathan administration. Farmers directly access those inputs. What we have seen over the years is that government decided to remove that subsidy, stop subsidizing input for farmers, and farmers continue to buy fertilizer at the highest price. At the moment, a bag of urea is going to 40,000. So if a farmer will afford 40,000, how much do you want him to sell the bag of rice or maize when he has harvested? So I think that such kind of interventions must be looked into. Government should look at how best to be able to talk with major fertilizer companies, bring down the cost of fertilizer, and further subsidize fertilizer.
Very painful how these interruptions happen just when you think some major
good points we're going to make, and which is actually very important, because yesterday, as we were reporting this crash in the price of some of the grains, there is also a noticeable spike in the price of fertilizer, because farmers are already trying to secure the inputs going into the new farming season. And unfortunately, just as his point was trying to stress, that, you know, if they pay more for fertilizer, because you have to factor in cost of production, if they pay more for fertilizer, it is likely going to affect the price of their farm outputs or produce at the end of the day. So let's circle back to Dr. Ambrose, and hopefully the connectivity is much better now. Doctor, when we factor in, you know, not just what is happening with regards to the overall economic performance, but if you look at the upcoming farming season right now, and just to piggyback off of the thoughts of Mr. Maikasuwa there, what do you make of, you know, the cost of production, especially if we look at our smallholder farmers, those who are able to, those who don't have to deal with the insecurity? There's still a question of how we're going to price the commodity when it comes to market.